Welcome to the co-hosted webinar session with PerformanceIN and Partnerize on growing together in uncertain times. So obviously, it's a really sort of unpredictable time at the moment, given what's happening with the sort of coronavirus pandemic. But this session this afternoon, which we're really excited to be working with Partnerize on, is kind of bringing the opportunity to kind of discuss some key topics and ideas to ensure your business is fully prepared and to adapt to these changes which are affecting markets, businesses and consumers' behaviours right now. So my name is Mustafa. I work as the Senior Digital Journalist here at PerformanceIN, and I will be sort of just moderating today's session over the next sort of 30 minutes or so. Just to recap, so this afternoon you'll hear from top experts at Partnerize, co-founder VP of Revenue, Sean Sewell, and customer success team lead, Carys Roche, as we go through the session, both of them will focus on 6 key challenges that companies may be facing now, and also kind of go through some key partnership strategies to help mitigate them. And then just kind of quickly run through some of the discussion topics that will be taking place. So that'll be including examples of how partnership is solving immediate challenges for brands, ways partners and brands are solving new challenges together, real-world tactics for driving demand creatively, and lastly, ideas to help your brand to ensure success when the world returns to normal in the coming months. Just before we begin, so a couple of logistic parts. So as I mentioned, the webinar session will last sort of roughly 30 to 40 minutes, and then we'll also have 5 to 10 minutes at the end to answer any questions you may have. And you can supply these with the chat box below by your dashboard throughout the session, and then we'll reserve those questions to ask both Sean and Carys at the end of the webinar. And then without further ado, I'll hand it over to Sean and Carys to kick off the session.
Thanks, Mustafa. I'll just introduce myself quickly. For those of you that don't know, my name's Karis, so I'm the customer success team lead at Partnerize here in EMEA. So I've been at Partnerize for just over 5 years now, and it's my main job to make sure our customers have everything they need from the product, and alongside the rest of the customer success team to lead on optimization products internally. So thank you for joining, everyone.
Hey everyone, Sean, I'm one of the co-founders of Partnerize and I head up revenue for EMEA. So kind of coordinate all of the new business that's coming into the region, and kind of work closely with the customer success team as well on clients. So yes, again, thanks everyone for joining. Quite an interesting time, and hopefully we've got some interesting things that we can cover off that you'll find of interest. So look forward to getting your questions at the end. So today what we're going to be covering, we're going to be looking at what's happened. So what is happening in the kind of affiliate marketing landscape at the moment. Today, what we could be doing to help kind of shape those partnerships to the current times, and also thinking about when we come out of what's going on at the moment and how to get out of this kind of situation as fast as possible and make the most of that. And then also for tomorrow, so how we can prepare for a bright future when normal situation resumes, if it ever does. So in terms of what's happened, we're going to look at current analysis by vertical. So we're going to look at all the individual verticals in terms of the data we're seeing across the clients that we're working with and the partners. How partnerships helps in uncertain times. So we've got some ideas around things you can be doing, and alternatives to pausing your program. I know this is going on a lot at the moment. Some potentially because, travel industry, as we know, has been hit massively. So some programs, you probably can't blame them for turning them off. And then there's other programs like most recently like Amazon who have cut their commissions by 80%. And maybe that's not quite as fair as what they should be playing with. So, we've got some alternatives to kind of just turning your program off altogether. So hopefully that will be of interest as well. There's just some of the data we're seeing, and in terms of March versus April, it's the last 2 weeks of March versus the first 2 weeks of April, kind of what we've seen here. So travel obviously has gone down both in conversions and clicks, and we're kind of not expecting that to rise anytime soon. Retail was kind of flat towards the end of March, but then conversions and traffic around that's gone up. I certainly was receiving and seeing a lot more, certainly retail sales going on really early to kind of get the traffic coming through and get as much revenue through, especially those stores that have bricks and mortar stores that are closing their stores. They really tried to amplify up what was going on online to try and make up for that. Finance, it was down a bit towards the end of March, but now we've definitely seen that bounce up. I guess with interest rates being so low, there's never been a good time to get to remortgage, to get a loan, but also people are also shopping around for things like life insurance a lot more. So that would account for that being up a bit more. Subscriptions, if you look at this in a couple of different categories, if we look at more the obvious ones, like a kind of Netflix or a Disney, you know, people are trying to keep everyone entertained in this period. I myself have got 3 kids that we're trying to keep entertained in between schooling as well. So Disney's certainly come up. I think I've watched everything on Netflix right now. And we've been jigging around with other subscriptions on that. But then also, if you look at things like a food, like a Deliveroo or a Gusto, you know, that as shopping and delivery slots become even less because, you know, they're sold out. I think we've seen people expand more into different channels to try and get their food in, like so getting into the Gustos or things, elements like that. So we've seen those kind of subscription-based ones increase. And then the kind of telecom space, again, with kind of broadband, more people working from home, we're kind of seeing more of a shift from that moving up, people trying to increase their broadband, certainly as I've got everyone online doing Zoom classrooms, got my son always on his Xbox, though he says he's revising. You know, that's the bandwidth is getting narrower and narrower, so I'm having to increase the broadband that we've got. So we're seeing a lot more of that going around, as well as the kind of, obviously, the satellite TVs, and everyone's on their mobile phones potentially a lot more as well. So yeah, that's definitely gone up. And then we thought it'd just be interesting to do some sort of comparison of kind of April and March 2019 versus this year. And we've kind of seen a bit of a dip in coupon and voucher traffic gone down. Content has gone up, definitely. And we're going to touch on content quite a bit probably within the presentation. But I think what we're seeing is it's a really good time for partners to kind of, advertisers to kind of work together to create some really interesting content and get that online. Cashback has remained steady from our perspective, which is interesting because we know travel, they use a cashback as quite a lot, but we've seen that kind of remain steady. So actually maybe other channels have kind of increased their fluctuations through that. Comparisons obviously dipped. Majority of that, certainly from our perspective, we've seen from travel and probably even the finance as well. People are probably being a lot more direct in terms of where they're going. Technology, that has increased. And also same with kind of sub-network partners as well. We've seen that kind of remain a bit flat. So it's quite interesting to see that content has gone up and the content and the technology partners have gone up as well. So people are really trying to look to different ways to kind of get the customers and the traffic back. And then how partnerships helps? Well, look, we all know it's a pay performance model. It's transparent. So ROAS is really, really clear. You know, you're only paying for what you get. Refunds and rejections, you know, you're not paying out on. We know this already. Partners are really anxious to help. We've seen a lot of partners approach our customers, even partners who potentially would traditionally charge a sign-on fee or would charge for fees for tenancies. That's being removed as more of an incentive way to work with more and more net new advertisers to kind of plug the gap in revenue from campaigns either closing altogether or being dialed down. And we know that partners know their audience really well. So this is a really good way. We know that obviously we've seen in a lot of the kind of chat channels where affiliate programs have been turned off, or, you know, they're dialing their commissions right down, which is fine because they're probably getting a lot of direct traffic right now. So why pay? But partners really understand their customer base. They know what offers work well. They're viewing across the entire spectrum, all of your competitors, not just who is also working with your tech or your network at the moment. So they have a really good understanding of what works and what doesn't. So if you can keep that funnel and that channel still, that customer moving through those partners, personally, I think you've got a much better chance of having future campaigns and future offers working better through those partners.
Great. So I suppose in current times, it means that we've seen some really strong reactions from within the industry. And most of you, some of you will have most probably experienced this yourselves. And it might be your gut reaction or instruction from above to pause programs to save cash. But as we know, partnerships has the highest return on ad spend. So this is definitely something you should be pushing back on or reconsidering. So looking at the long term, it keeps your partner relationship stronger by keeping programs switched on. So there are a couple of tactics which we'll run through with you now that you can put in place to help your organization cope. Can you look at your commissions? So awarding increased commissions for higher value goods or those transactions with high order value. You could utilize your partners to move distressed or surplus inventory. You need to be direct and open with your partners at this time to get that interaction going. Test and learn is also a really good element to consider. So certain partners might be stronger at the minute. So use a test and learn strategy to work out which partners are performing the strongest and who is up and coming. So we all know who our usual top partners are, but that might have moved somewhat and that shift might have changed based on changes in performance. And also don't forget that partnerships is a fantastic marketing resource. You can use partners and affiliates to support other channels. So we will touch on this in a couple of slides' time as well. And being part of customer success, we're at the forefront of the business. So me, myself, and the rest of the team have been in a lot of communication with our customers. We've obviously had quite an open dialogue when it comes to COVID-19 and how it's kind of affected everyone. This is a very new sort of unprecedented time. We've never really seen anything like that before. So some of our customers have kindly sent over their thoughts and top tips on how to navigate through. I'm not going to read through each one, but I'm going to pluck out a couple of key points. So Claire over at AO, her top tip is to make sure you're having transparent conversations with your partners. And even if it is around internal matters such as stock levels and supply chain challenges, because when you share that market demand data, it will help sales to be pushed in the long run. The guys over at M&M Direct, their top tip is around being open to change. So just making sure that you are keeping in contact with your partners and you're planning accordingly. Office Depot, as you can imagine, they already have a bit of a foot in the door with the new work from home policies. So they've had to react fast and they're tailoring their work from home campaigns, which essentially means they're suggesting that brands adapt to the current climate and the new challenges being faced however you can. So some quite good tips there from our clients. So as Sean said, there's a couple of different elements to this presentation, what's happened, what you can be doing today, and that's what I'm going to cover now. So more immediate strategies and considerations to managing your partner campaigns. It's sort of four key points we want to get through: addressing immediate company needs, looking at how you can rekindle demand, looking at influencer programs, and also how you can use the partnerships channel innovatively. So firstly, addressing immediate company needs. Again, as I've said, this is not something that any company has really seen before. It's probably affecting all industries, but it's definitely something that the partnerships channel can help solve as well when it comes to your industry. So what we've done is lay out a couple of example problems and then our proposed solution on the back of that as well. So when you're considering supply chain issues, which might be something that's relevant to a lot of you guys, one of our solutions is that you can reconsider your generic commissions and looking at commissioning at category level. It might seem a bit simplistic, but you'd be surprised at how many people are not yet doing this. And also specifically targeting areas where there is less of a supply chain issue. So whether you have different stock in different warehouses, whether you have different sort of delivery methods for those goods, it's definitely something to be considering. And also create distressed item offers for goods with sort of that you need to get out the door quickly with sell by dates, etc. That's definitely something that is of use to everyone. Margins, it's definitely time to consider your margins. You want to be looking at creating programs that reward partners for the promotion of those goods with a higher margin for you, and also look at smarter commissions that take average order value into consideration as well. And then finally, you might one of the issues that you might be facing are around small value purchases because of shipping costs and delays, etc. It might not be something that you're keen to push. So create programs that reward on net revenue, and also look at maybe a tiered commission approach. So do you want to look at an escalating commission that rewards partners for more transactions? So the more they push, the more they're rewarded. Secondly, I suppose it's how we are focusing on kindling or rekindling demand, shall I say. And I probably don't need to remind half of you, because we talk about it a lot, but partnerships is a relationship-focused industry. This means there are two parties involved who both have an invested interest. So it's not just the brands leading everything these days. The publishers have got a lot more weight as well. So brands need to maintain those relationships to ensure that they come back strong. I mean, it's probably no surprise that right now some consumers have shown less interest in certain categories and they're focusing a lot of attention on others. So really, and also evidence is showing from China that buying patterns do normalize over time. So you really need to be present and active for when customers return to your categories. And at the moment, new behavior patterns are being set. So you want to make sure that you're the brand that comes back strong. It's a really good time to invest in your loyalty program at the minute too. Could you consider extending your returns period or offering greater loyalty incentives to customers to purchase now? So a great example that we've seen is airline loyalty programs extending their tier progression timelines, so that those customers in a certain tier won't be penalized for not being able to travel, and therefore the brand has kept the customer engaged and loyal. So influencers, I think this is something that we've all probably been talking about for a long time, especially in customer success. But in my personal opinion, the gap between influencers and performance marketing is definitely getting smaller. A lot more brands are looking to measure the effectiveness of their influencer activity in terms of ad spend. So over the years here at Partnerize, we've seen many brands onboarding influencers onto our platform so they can manage those relationships directly. And I suppose now more than ever, consumers have got more time at home and are using social media and their devices more. So if you do have influencer campaigns in place, is the ROI being measured? And if not, now's definitely the time to reconsider. And I suppose last but not least, how else can we be using partnerships innovatively? Now is a brilliant time to adapt how you use partnerships to support other marketing strategies. You might want to look at how you work with content sites. Can you make any leverages there to increase engagement with SEO? And also consider your branding and brand awareness teams. Competition is really high at the minute, and you need to make sure you're the ones at the top and at the forefront of the consumers' minds. It's also a great idea, and Sean touched on this earlier, leaning on your partners for insights to gain an understanding to buyer behavior. Partners have an incredibly rich data set at their fingertips, which could just be one conversation away. So it's definitely worth picking up the phone and trying to get that insight. It might be something that your competitors haven't quite thought of. And finally, can you introduce new technologies to your marketing mix, such as card linking partners? These guys specifically target mobile users, but more importantly, are super easy to use for your consumers. And most of the time don't even require a click. So it's a great way to engage with new customers as well.
Cool. And then for tomorrow, strengthening partner relationships, planning for the future, and making the most of the technology or network that you're on currently. So it's strengthening partner relationships. So, you just got to do everything you can really to be fair and treat them right. So, I think that paying them for the work that's already completed, cash flow is super important at a time like this. We've seen a lot of advertisers, they've furloughed a lot of their team, and it's probably happening potentially on maybe on publisher sides as well. So, cash flow is really super important. Take a shared pain approach to maintain your relationship. So what we mean by this is, rather than potentially looking to maybe turn your program off altogether or just flatten out all your commissions at like 1% across the board, look at where you can increase your commission, whether that's distressed inventory, whether that's higher margin type products. And then, so it's more of a balanced approach rather than just cutting it off at the knees straight away. And also as part of that, communicate, right? Keep communication going, be transparent, and talk to your partners around this, because that's going to be absolutely key. If they can understand the approach of where you're coming from, it's a lot clearer and a lot more feasible to swallow. Take this time to determine your highest performing partners and work with them to help optimize the programs, but also at the same time examine your mid and more of your long tail. So now's a great time to kind of look at that and get a more, I guess, varied and more balanced portfolio within your partner mix right now. So rather than, look to really see how you can work with, like we've seen, more people are working with content partners more, they're driving more sales. How can you get that peripheral top of the funnel partners more down into the bottom so they're driving more sales, and balance that out a bit more so you are less dependent on, what will be the traditional key big partners as well. So futures of that, diversify, be really smart in terms of your partner recruitment as well. Don't have a kind of spray and pray tactic. Really look for guys who drive, maybe working with very similar brands, have a very similar customer base to you, or they'll have a customer flow that's working really well for other brands that you can then work into. Improving loyalty partner programs as well, that Karis has touched on. Benchmarking, now's a good time to reach out to the partners. You can look in the market, see what your competitors are up to. It's really easy to look at the cashback guys and see what rates every brand's paying out in the market right now. You can use this to be quite reactive, and also ask the partners how you're performing versus your competitors as well. Growing your customer base. Lapsed customers is a really interesting area. Defining what is a lapsed customer. I'd argue potentially now, some brands may look at that as 12 months they haven't been back, 6 months haven't been back. I'd maybe shorten that as well and really work with your partners to understand how you can get these lapsed customers back into shopping onto your sites. And also, in terms of growing your base as well, the influencer piece and implementing that on a performance model. So obviously there's reward style and other types of influencer type networks that you plug in, but a lot of brands now are starting to work directly with influencers, and it's now not so much more of a PR and branding budget, because more and more there's increasing justification on show me what it's returning. So if you can put that ROI piece against the influencer, that's going to be super important. And planning B2B partnerships. Now, this is a different channel, but we have seen over the past couple of years now, affiliate people are starting to become a lot more biz devy, right? I mean, that's kind of why we use the term partnerships more than affiliate these days. And your traditional affiliate manager is also looking for other brands who they can partner with. And that's a great way, because, other brands have similar types of customers, non-competing brands. And what a great way to kind of drive incremental growth and tap into a new customer base is sharing customers. So we'll kind of touch on that in over the next few slides as well. Content partners, as we've mentioned, now's a great time to get engaged with them. For its Condé Nast, or whether it's someone like Lad Bible, work on the content very, very specific. You can work on getting content out really fast, or do more of a long-term type strategy. Do bespoke content to bespoke content partners. It will support that kind of whole wider areas like SEO, for example, but it also gives you a great time to test and learn different types of content that work and what doesn't work as well. And again, you can kind of use now to kind of get these content guys a bit further down the funnel and add more value for that. So on the partnerships, just to bring this kind to life more, and these are out in the wild, you can download these off our site. But Surfstitch in Australia did a great partnership with Hawaiian Airlines, and they have an ongoing partnership with them now. But essentially, their customer bases are really similar. Surfstitch customers are, they like the beach life, relaxed clothing. Hawaiian Airlines customers are also like the outdoor kind of life, surfing, etc. So they actually got together and they launched their partnership as a competition to start off with, essentially. And it was Hawaiian gave away 2 free tickets to Hawaii, and Surfstitch basically said, we'll fill your suitcase up full of Surfstitch clothing if you want to go. And then from ongoing. They've got a joint partnership where they're always promoting each other, and we're kind of tracking that in the middle of that as well. So we're tracking the performance off the back of that partnership. Again, with Red Balloon and Surf Stitch, again, it's another good matchup. Red Balloon is kind of like buy gift over here. If you want to go and do experiences or go do base jumping or something like that, you'd probably buy it through Red Balloon. Very similar customer probably to like Surf Stitch. They see a sort of similarities there and a lot of affinity. So they ran a partnership where they were just promoting each other. Surf Stitch promoted Red Balloon promoted Surf Stitch to their customer base. And I think it drove over something like 100,000 Aussie dollars of revenue in the first month in terms of the partnership. So yeah, this is a great way now, if maybe if you're working for a business where it's slowed down potentially, start to look at how you could reach out to other businesses. We're really proactive in promoting this in terms of how you could partner with them, right? And partner with them in the right way. You can move to the next slide. This is a quick checklist, and we'll happily send this around afterwards if anyone wants to read it. And I won't read these out. You can read them as you go on, but it's great to have an idea, a checklist. What is your ideal customer, and therefore what would be the ideal brand who you could partner with, who's got that similar customer base. So obviously you don't want to compete directly. You want to make sure they maybe, they're the same, maybe got the same cultural characteristics as you, they've got the same ethical standards as you, for example. All these sort of things you want to work through. And then it's a matter of agreeing what a partnership would be. Maybe it's one way, maybe it's two way. One of our advertisers, Hostel World, for example, they're really keen to promote to their base, which is the demographics of probably 20 to 25-year-olds. I think it's around 60% female, 40% male. They'll run promotions in their newsletters out to their customer base for a partnership. So and it's a much more trusted promotion because it's coming from a brand they've already experienced and already used and already trust. So we think B2B partnerships this is a great time to kind of explore those in a bit more detail. So in terms of making the most of your technology, identify any features or tools that you're not currently using. We're probably all you could kind of liken this, anything you use tech to your wardrobe. You probably use 20%, wear 20% of your clothing 80% of the time, and it's probably exactly the same with the tools you use on the network or a platform or whatever it is, the kind of tech you're using to track your partnerships. So are you using it to the most? Can you use this? Is it, are you getting the most data out that you can get to make more informed decisions? Can you do more tiered commissions, to use that to promote distressed inventory or eminent inventory that's not selling? Is there a better way you can use split commissionings, for example, to start encouraging those content partners to work more with you within the funnel, for example? So really just look at what can you use. Even like partner discovery there is a great example to do a gap analysis, find partners that you're not necessarily working with and bring them in. And then review your tracking and ensure you're compliant. Now we've seen is an uplift in more brands looking to do server to server. Sometimes it's a period like now, the tech team could be a bit quieter than normal, or they could be ultra busy, depending on what's going on. But it could be a great time now to move from pixel-based tracking to more server to server. And then, just take a look at your current marketing strategies. Are there other partners that you could be integrating in with other tech platforms? Are you passing data points in from other channels to increase your commissioning capabilities? So now's a really good time to be a bit more reflective and kind of review exactly what you're doing across all areas, not just your partners as well. And kind of that is it from us. I think the key things to kind of point on that we've kind of seen is, please communicate with your partners if you're not already. Try and be as open and transparent as possible. Obviously, you may be in a position where you've got to reduce commissions, but try and do that in a shared pain model way. You're often brands are important. Well, you are an important revenue stream for publishers, especially in the mid and long tail, where it can be a lot smaller, not global businesses. Some of these are much smaller teams. Cash flow is king and really important to these guys. Please don't turn your programs off. When we start to come out of this, if the program's off, it's going to take you longer to scale back up again. Whereas if your competitors stayed on, they're going to come out the blocks a lot faster, and they're going to be sprinting while you're still warming up. So keep the program on, keep it ticking over, but keep communication open with your partners. And if you have to have more of a shared pay model, then just zeroing out commissions altogether. And use the time wisely to kind of review and be more tactile where you can, and plan more for the future in terms of when we get out. And that's, I think that's it from us. Welcome any questions.
Cool, great stuff. Thanks, Sean, and thanks, Karis, as well, for a really insightful session and some brilliant insight, and also case studies into the current climate, as well as partnerships and kind of key strategies to kind of help overcome them as well. So no, really good, really good. I hope everyone found that useful, and thanks for tuning in. I'm seeing some questions coming in the chat box as we see. Cool. So I've got one from Tony May. So he has said, have you seen any brands who have been badly impacted by the lockdown starting to plan for a return to normal scenario, and how? So that's Tony from Finder.
Yeah, so I think what Tony's asking there, have we seen any brands that have been sort of affected from when the lockdown began? And I suppose the answer is yes, we have a lot of brands. The most obvious ones being the travel industry was probably the first. But that said, people are not resting on their laurels. They're not taking this time as a sort of time out. We've got some incredible conversations ongoing with some of our travel partners around optimizations. Some of the tactics that we've mentioned here before, maybe some more specific ones as well. So, you know, and then, you've sort of seen travel suffer slightly, but then that said, we are British and this is the British market and people do love a holiday. So we are seeing a slight increase as well, and people are taking the time to kind of maybe have their holidays later in the year. And retail, I mean, as we've touched on as well, people are starting to kind of be a little bit more, settled into this quarantine, and people wanting to sort of spend their cash on something. They can't go out, so people tend to be, shopping a lot more when it comes to buying stuff for their garden, home improvements, clothes, retail, that sort of thing. So, it's a bit of a mixed bag, really, in terms of what people have been seeing.
I'd say as well, there's certain retailers we've seen kind of, if you think everything comes from a warehouse and gets distributed out, and social distancing and things, are having to be implemented into warehouses. So this could cause some issues with getting stock out of warehouses. So we've seen brands focus more on that kind of rich content element, and as a reason, to keep customers coming to their site, editorial and content being posted up rather than a click to buy type mentality. So they're trying to keep the traffic still coming to their site. So that's been interesting to see.
Great stuff. We had another question to ask whether the presentation will be shared. So just to clarify, so this webinar is being recorded, so there will be a post recording of this. So that will be sent to everyone that's attended today. And also I believe the slides will be shared as well. So that'll be within 24 hours after today's session. So that answers that question. And then I guess I had a couple of my side of things. So so just a couple of conversations I've had actually in terms of your session covered sort of affiliate partnerships, and the key thing about maintaining your programs during this time and sort of partnerships. So it's kind of there's a lot of human interactions, so it's kind of bringing back to that human element. So I guess I had a question. It's kind of, is there a way for sort of brands to kind of use the power of partnership for social good kind of during these times of uncertainty? So aside from performance as well.
Do you want to take this? Yeah, do you want me to? Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes. There's definite conversations that we've had internally, but then also stuff that I've seen in the industry and in my own life as well. So, I mean, you've probably noticed the recognition on our services. So NHS staff, people that work in hospitals, etc. And we've seen a lot of brands actually considering specific offers around those services as well. So offering, bespoke voucher codes. I mean, you've seen the queue jump services at the supermarkets and stuff like that. That is definitely being returned online as well. So we've actually got partners who are getting in touch with asking about certain technologies, about how we could potentially be looking at one-time use codes for NHS staff and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been quite an interesting and also quite an altruistic time. I think generally speaking, the British public are actually good people, and people are trying to react quite positively to this as well.
Just going back to what Tony asked, I was just thinking there. I think, just a personal opinion, I think we're going to see a lot more what have been traditional bricks and mortar type brands investing a bit more into their e-com platforms. You know, there's a certain home, garden and DIY store that I was on their website the other day, and I was in a queue just to get onto the website. Now, they couldn't obviously can't handle the traffic going onto their site. So I think you're going to see much more of an investment in the more traditional bricks and mortar type brands to be more online ready for when you know, if something like this was ever to happen again. And let's face it, you know, when we come out of this, it's not going to be everyone can return to work. Social distancing will still be in place. It's going to be a very gradual return in. So, you know, there'll still be a lot of people working from home. There'll still be stores closed for whatever reason. So, you know, they may only be able to let in one at a time, for example, and to keep that kind of social distancing going. So footfall is not going to rise as fast as maybe some brands would hope. So I can see brands increasingly starting to look to be more online competitive.
Cool, great stuff. And I think I've got one more question. Just quickly run through what you demonstrated in today's session. It's just how vital is sort of performance marketing and partner marketing, you could say, to ensure that that you're getting the best ROI possible.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's essential. I think it's proven itself time and time again. That, you know, the transparency of it, the ROI of it was 14 to 1 or 16 to 1 from the last IAB kind of stats that we saw over here. You know, it delivers, but obviously there is pressure. There's cost pressure. There's market pressures at the moment that we've not seen before, that a lot of advertisers haven't seen before. And, you know, when commissions are getting dialed down or programs even getting switched off, that's probably not affiliate being isolated for that. Paid search will be getting hit. Display will be getting hit. Yeah, all channels will be getting hit because some brands are kind of fighting for their lives right now. So I'm kind of sympathetic towards that as well. So again, yeah, it's a proven channel. It can deliver the sales. Keep your partners on. Keep communication open, and you know, continue to keep it going.
Great stuff. Karis, you got anything to add to that?
No, I think Sean got it in a nutshell.
Cool, great stuff. Thanks again both for presenting this afternoon's session, and thank you all for attending the webinar as well. So yeah, just to recap, so this session will be posted on PerformanceIN and it'll be shared on the Partnerize channels as well. So for those who missed out or for those that attended that would like to recap, they can do so as well. And that's along with the presentation. And yeah, just a huge thank you again for tuning into today's webinar, and I'm sure you guys have sort of taken away some good insight, especially during these sort of uncertain times at the moment. But I'm sure we'll power through because we're all in this together. So thanks again all. Enjoy the rest of your afternoons, and yeah, we'll catch you all soon.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.